And Young Doctors returns on Mondays and Tuesdays at 3:30 from September the 3rd.
A mother only puts her trust in safe hands. You trust in Vosine because with nothing more dramatic than regular shampooing, it gives them family dandruff control. That healthy-looking shine shows you've kept their hair in safe hands. Trust in Vosine for family dandruff control.
Take a walk down any street. Take a look at them crazy feet. Everybody stepping out with a style that'll knock you out. Walking the dog. Just a walking the dog. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's walking the dog.
Oh, read us the agony column, Dolly.
There's a letter here from a bloke.
Well, go on.
Says he's got spots all over.
Where's he live, then?
Hackney.
Oh, go on. Poor as another.
There's no other tea to beat PG.
It's the taste.
The world's #1 building society is helping to change the face of saving with Halifax Card Cash. Card cash machines are waiting to serve you 7 days a week, taking only seconds for withdrawals or deposits, issuing mini-statements, and paying you interest every minute of the day. Card cash is happening now all over Britain. Saving has never been easier.
Great opening sale of the new MFI Kitchen and Bedroom Centre in Staines. Thousands of exclusive sale offers, like systematic kitchen and bedroom units, 55 to 75% off. Hygiene Elite bedroom chests and wardrobes, 70% off. At the new Kitchen and Bedroom Centre, High Street, Staines. Sale on now.
Come to Margate and to Bem Bom Brothers Amusement Park. Pay once as you enter and all the rides are free all day, like the Pirate, the Looping Star, the Merry Rose and spectacular new rides for this season. Ask at your local Southern station for the bargain train admission ticket to Bem Bom Brothers Amusement Park, Margate. Open daily.
The police, they're always right. Our side doesn't took into consideration at all.
Know today that the mother and the father will be asking, why us?
More violence has put Northern Ireland back in the news. In Armagh, the problem is one of life and sudden death in a divided city. From the shadow of the gun, a major new series starts Sunday, 12 noon.
This is London Weekend Television, your weekend ITV. It's time now for the news.
The news at 5:45 with Carol Barnes.
Union leaders call a national dock strike. Ronnie and Nancy accept the Republican nomination, but he says it's no cakewalk. And with wetty money set for a double century, England are hammered by Sri Lanka. Good evening. Dockers' union leaders have called an immediate national strike over British Steel's unloading of the coal ship Ostia. The Scottish ports are out, so are Hull and Liverpool. The union say Tilbury will strike from 9 o'clock tonight. But two of the big five, Felixstowe and Dover, are not expected to join in, and ferries carrying holiday traffic probably won't be hit. The rail unions have told their members not to cross Dockers' picket lines. And tonight, the miners' leader, Mr. Scargill, is discussing with 4 transport unions support for the strike. The dock strike was agreed by 78 votes to 11 by dockers leaders meeting in London. They said British Steel broke a local deal by handling the Ostia supplies for the Ravenscraig works. The CBI said a strike would be disastrous, hitting raw materials and food. Labour's Mr John Prescott blamed the government for not intervening in the miners' strike. The Employment Secretary, Mr Tom King, said there was no justification for the strike. It had been called entirely in support of the miners.
Dockers' delegates were divided over the wisdom of calling a second national dock strike in as many months. While men from the big ports like London, Liverpool and Southampton had been expected to put their weight behind the strike call, others from ports like Dover and Felixstowe, which aren't covered by the dock labour scheme, dubbed the Jobs for Life agreement, voted against a strike. The strike is likely to start hitting many ports from next week, which could have a devastating effect on Britain's trade, since 70% of our goods come through ports backing the strike. But what will the union do about ports which carry on working?
We'll have to deal with that in a normal way, in the sense that we'll explain the issues to them. We'll try to persuade them to go down this road of what is a real practical decision in the sense of protection of our members' jobs.
What happens then if some cargo is actually shifted from ports which aren't working to those which are?
But if it is accepted, then we will have to deal with that in the way that we normally deal with it and attempt to picket it out.
Obviously, we are most distressed about the position because the dispute is not between the National Association of Port Employers and the Transport and General Workers Union. It seems to be between BSC and the TNG.
Dover will be a key centre for pickets if it carries on working, and the port workers today said they had every intention of defying the strike.
We never come out with the last strike. We certainly don't want to come out with this strike. So a living we've got to make, innit?
Yeah, I'll be against it as well. I mean, it stops us working. I mean, we don't want to stop. So, I mean, it's the same as last time, really. They said we might lay you off. We still want you to work, we weren't allowed.
Well, I don't want to strike. That's me personally. I don't want nothing to do with it.
No way are we going to be pawns for Mr Scargill and his strike. No way.
The 1,000 dockers at Hull walked out within minutes of the strike call, leaving freight ferries half-loaded, cargoes unattended. They deny any political motivation.
But we are going to make our protest that people can't come in and do registered dockers work in Hull, in Southampton, or even in Unterston, without a reaction from every port throughout the country.
Stranded lorry drivers were caught out by the sudden stoppage. They say they'd been assured of sailings until midnight.
And now I've got to go home without the trailer, North Wales.
How's this strike going to affect your work and your company?
Well, if Dover are out, I mean, I'm on the dole. And this year we haven't had a very good year anyway for these. I live in North Wales and the coal mines are still working there. I can't see the point of disrupting everybody else.
Some lost business will never be recovered. The Port Authority know how their customers will react.
Well, we have to spend all our time keeping our customers loyal to Hull as it is. Any setback such as this makes our task that much more difficult.
Falling trade has meant the Dock Authority have already asked for voluntary redundancies to shed a third of the workforce. Loss of business through a prolonged strike will cost even more jobs. Anne Lucas, ITN, Humberside.
Coal Board Chairman Mr McGregor refused to comment on the dock strike, but he defended his decision not to reopen talks with the miners, despite the peace plan put forward by Labour's Mr Orme. He said there was nothing new in it. Today there was more violence on the picket lines, with 26 arrests at Wearmouth and Sunderland when 11 supervisors started work. And pickets massed outside Easington Colliery in County Durham after one miner went in.
At Wearmouth Colliery in Sunderland, police outnumbered the 600 pickets who were determined to stop anyone reporting for work. But police control almost slipped when a sudden rush of men tried to block the entrance. One policeman and 2 miners were injured in the crush. There were 26 arrests. Seconds later, the police escort protecting one van arrived. 11 supervisory staff in the COSA section of the NUM were driven across the picket line into the colliery. 5 other men who worked at the beginning of the week stayed at home today because they say some of them had been beaten up by pickets. And at Easington in County Durham, police used riot gear for the first time in the northeast when miners ran riot through the colliery yard. They overturned 2 cars, damaged others and smashed windows. They were reacting to information that one miner had been smuggled into work through a side entrance. He tried to work every day this week, but until today, police had turned him back because they couldn't guarantee his safety. The miners say they'll be back in force next week to stop him slipping through their net again. Sheila Matheson, ITN, in the Durham coalfield.
Now, foreign news, armed hijackers seized an airliner over India today and threatened to kill all 93 people on board one by one, unless they were allowed to fly on to the United States. 5 passengers were allowed to leave when the Boeing 737 landed to refuel in Lahore, but it later took off for Karachi and another stop for fuel before heading on to Bahrain. It's believed the hijackers are militant Sikhs, and they're said to be armed with petrol bombs and knives. A Cypriot oil tanker, the Amethyst, is ablaze in the Gulf after a missile attack 60 miles south of Karg Island. The fire is reported to be out of control and the ship sinking fast. All but one of the 33 crew have been rescued. In Israel, the Labour leader Mr Perez and the Prime Minister Mr Shamir say they're close to forming a national unity coalition government. They've agreed on the need to withdraw troops from Lebanon and on tough measures for the economy, but they're still apart on the question of Jewish settlement in Gaza. And a bomb has badly damaged a government building in South Africa. It went off during the rush hour in offices in Johannesburg, which administer South Africa's apartheid laws. It's not yet known whether anyone was hurt. President Reagan has predicted he'll beat Mr Mondale and win a second term in the White House, but he's warned supporters it won't be a cakewalk. Earlier, delegates at the Republican convention in Dallas gave President Reagan a rapturous reception when he accepted nomination as their candidate.
The proceedings opened with Republicans awaiting a film about the president, which some TV channels here had refused to run on the basis that it was simply a commercial. 18 minutes, £500,000 in the making, and not thought by critics here as quite Oscar material.
You know, you don't really become president. The presidency is an institution, and you have temporary custody of it.
The selling of the president complete, 8 minutes of celebration followed. When eventually he spoke, it was at unusual length. Many subjects were touched, but the theme of the film returned.
In the 4 years before we took office, country after country fell under the Soviet yoke. Since January 20th, 1981, not 1 inch of soil has fallen to the communists.
Dismissing America's vast national deficit, he coupled the military with the economic revival.
Well, now it's all coming together. With our beloved nation at peace, we're in the midst of a springtime of hope for America. Greatness lies ahead of us.
Later today, the president flies to Chicago to address veteran soldiers of foreign wars. John Snow, ITN, Dallas.
Now, cricket, the Sri Lankans have given England's bowlers the runaround again in the first Cornhill Test at Lord's. They rattled up the runs, losing only 1 more wicket, with Wettimani looking set for a double century.
To the embarrassment of England's cricket establishment and to the surprise of most informed observers, Sri Lankan cricket today came of age. Wettimani compiled an almost faultless innings to become the highest scorer by any batsman in his first test in England. His partner, Ranatunga, also survived the best attack that England could muster, including the despairing efforts of Lamb and Botham. And he made a sparkling 84 before Agnew found the gap between bat and pad. That was the only wicket to fall during a day which saw Wettimani reach his 150 with an immaculate display of both temperament and technique. His captain, Mendes, came to join him and increase the scoring rate by hitting Botham for 2 sixes in 1 over. So, for the 6th time in this summer's tests, Botham has had the unfortunate distinction of having more than 100 runs scored off him. Mendes reached his 50 off Ellison, and he achieved it with an ease that suggests his side might return home with a well-deserved draw. And the score at the moment, Sri Lanka are 391 for 4, with Mendes and Wettimani still there. Ian Edwards, ITN Sport at Lord's.
The main headlines again. Dockers union leaders have called an immediate national strike over the unloading of the coal ship Ostia. Railmen have been told by train unions not to cross Dockers picket lines. The Coal Board chairman, Mr McGregor, says there was nothing new in Mr Stan Orme's peace plan to end the miners' strike, and President Reagan has predicted he'll beat Mr Mondale and win a second term in the White House, but he's warned supporters it won't be a cakewalk. 40 years ago this week, the first French tanks moved into free Paris from 4 years of Nazi occupation. Tomorrow, thousands of war veterans will gather in the French capital to celebrate. Among them, the solitary Englishman who helped lead the Free French home.
40 years ago today, the first of de Gaulle's Free French tanks began to fight their way into Paris. There was some sharp fighting, but by the next morning, their biggest obstacle was the huge crowd. In the third tank into the city was a young Englishman, fighting under de Gaulle because his mother was French.
As soon as we got into Paris, we were assaulted, if that's the right word, by thousands and thousands of people, and particularly girls. And they just climbed all over our tanks. If we'd had to fight, we couldn't have done, because there were so many bodies about, you know, and they were kissing us all over the place. And lipstick over dust and grease and oil, you know, we looked like clowns.